Like and subscribe right now, or you're gonna have terrible luck for the next week.
I'm going to keep this intro short as I know you really want to get into the creepy stuff. So here are some of the creepiest things found by urban explorers. Next up, we have the DELRAY witch. Not really a discovery by urban explorers, but you'll soon see why I just had to include it in today's list. Back in 2014, a police officer responded to a disturbance in DELRAY, Detroit. After finishing up, he heard some strange noises coming from a neighboring house, so he decided to check it out, catching everything on video. As he approached the broken down house, he calls out to see if anyone was inside it. Suddenly, a ghostly face appears in the upstairs window, disappearing as fast as it appeared. The eagle-eyed among you may have noticed a bit of old newspaper the cops showed in the video. That clipping actually told of a woman named Rose Verez, who was thought to have murdered at least 12 men in the 1930s, earning her the nickname of the DELRAY witch. Did the police officer catch a glimpse of the spirit of the dreaded witch? What do you think? Next, we have a drug den. The McCormick's Candy Factory in London, Ontario was once a very successful establishment. It was originally constructed in 1913 and operated until its closure in 2008 by the government due to non-payment of taxes. It is now a very popular place for urban explorers, with some even saying that it is the perfect place for beginners. I somehow disagree with that. This place, once the birthplace of tons of sweet morsels enjoyed by kids all across Canada, is now the perfect haunt for junkies and drug addicts, and these photos of discarded drug paraphernalia is proof of that. The guy who took these photos is quite lucky he didn't meet up with a doped up junkie during his exploration. Who knows what would have happened if he did. Next up, we have this eerie theater. A crumbling stage surrounded by decades worth of detritus. What's creepier than that? But believe it or not, this shell of a building was the reason for the birth and the death of an entire town. What you're looking at are the remains of the theater of the Burwash Correctional Center. Built entirely by itself in the Burwash, Ontario countryside in 1914, it was the only building for miles. But as the prison population grew, as well as the construction of a nearby highway, a town literally popped up around the prison. When the prison was finally closed down due to cost-cutting measures, the surrounding area became a ghost town, the perfect destination for urban explorers. Next, we have a bath full of brains. Reddit is a treasure trove of creepy stuff. Case in point, here's one that I found in the WTF Reddit forum. In this story, an anonymous poster uploaded a rather disturbing photo of a bathtub full of brains. He didn't explain much on his post, but rather left many Reddit users to speculate on where the macabre scene was found. Because of course it's Reddit, a lot of unsubstantiated backstories about the photo have cropped up. The most popular theory is that the tub of brains was found in an old abandoned hospital, but that's pure conjecture at this point. Unless the original poster provides more information, we may not get the real story behind this gruesome discovery. Up next, the old Grand Ballroom. Detroit is an urban explorer's dream. Recently, the city is experiencing somewhat of an upswing. Still, huge areas of the city still lie abandoned after car manufacturing moved overseas, which originally led to the downfall of the once booming city. The Grand Ballroom is one of at least a dozen theaters standing unused in the Motor City, but it is one of the most beautifully decayed and spooky. The Grand Ballroom began life as a jazz hall in the 1920s, but became most famous as a 60s and 70s rock venue that hosted hometown legends like MC5, The Stooges, and other legendary acts. Its decrepit, abandoned state has an undeniably creepy charm, and while exploring the ruins, one could easily imagine the former grandeur it once had. Next, we have a pickled shark. There are a few things urban explorers fully expect to find during one of their forays into rundown buildings, but I bet this urban explorer never expected what he found. At first, the video starts out like any other Urbex video, scenes of general abandonment and disrepair. Then he decides to enter one of the abandoned buildings. He chanced upon a very large aquarium and it's not empty. Inside was the perfectly preserved remains of a massive great white shark suspended in liquid that seems to be formaldehyde. Why the specimen wasn't donated to scientists after the park closed, I don't know. What I do know is that the great white was a massive draw for the park for many years. Hell's fire extinguishers. This is a pentagram, not just any ordinary kind of pentagram. Oh no, those things are boring. This pentagram was made using empty fire extinguishers. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. Could it be part of some sort of sinister satanic ritual used to conjure up demons and hellspawn? Maybe, especially if you knew where it was found. Built in 1923, the West Park Hospital was a psychiatric facility located in Surrey, England. It was one of the 5 psychiatric hospitals built in the area known as the Epsom Cluster. The hospital eventually became run down by the end of 2003. Most of the buildings were closed and the site was abandoned. This photo was taken by an urban explorer in the attic of the hospital. Up next, shot up TVs. Most abandoned houses are empty except for a few broken pieces of furniture and general detritus. However, this rundown shack in the middle of rural Ontario not only looked like it was still habitable, it even had electricity in the mains. Granted that it looked like the furniture hadn't been updated since the 1960s, and despite the walls being held up by wallpaper and a prayer, the entire house looks like it had just been abandoned yesterday, with the inhabitants leaving all their possessions behind, down to the empty beer bottles on the table. If the description I just gave you isn't creepy enough, let me tell you about the old TVs in the house. There are 3 of them, which is already weird by itself. But what's even weirder is the fact that 2 of them had bullet holes in them. Now we have a note, flies, and a live vulture. For all would-be urban explorers out there, here's a word of advice. If the house feels evil as soon as you step in, better get out as quickly as you can. Otherwise, you're in for an experience normally only seen in horror movies. In this video, a man is exploring an abandoned house in Baltimore, Maryland. First, he finds a piece of paper on which is drawn a portrait of a woman with the phrase, "I don't know what made thy house evil." I would personally have left right then and there, but he continued to explore. He noticed that the house was somehow overrun with flies. Then he found the source, a bathtub full of brown liquid. The clincher came when he made his way to the attic. In there, he spotted what looked like a stuffed vulture. That is, until the bird blinked, making the man know that it was very much alive. I'm pretty sure that after this, he got out of there as quickly as he could. Next, we have dead bodies. Curiosity can get the better of you, sometimes in a bad way. When urban explorer Yusuf Ahmadi failed to get into an abandoned house once, he promised himself that he would somehow find a way to get in. I'm pretty sure he regretted that promise. He managed to scale the walls surrounding the house, but still found it very difficult to gain entry into the house itself until they found a broken stepladder under an open window. The stepladder looked like it was covered in blood, but they still somehow drummed up enough courage to step on the ladder and take a peek through the window. What they saw was what appeared to be a dead body of a woman wearing all white and covered with blood. But the terror did not end there. As the 2 ran in a panic, they came across what seemed to be another dead body hanging from a tree. The video was a bit blurry, but you can actually make out the outline of a person suspended by a rope from its neck.
Now it's time for today's best pick.
Today's pick is definitely one of Indiana Jones's worst nightmares, a room full of snakes. While I wasn't able to find any urban explorer accidentally finding a room full of live snakes, I did find something a whole lot creepier. Find out more next. Jars of snakes. The Japan Snake Center in Gunma Prefecture, Japan is still very much open and can be visited by tourists, but it's no longer quite as popular as it was when first opened in 1968. It's quite a unique attraction, housing 200 plus species of snakes from all over the world. However, inside the property is an abandoned shack which, from the looks of it, hasn't been used in decades. It was inside this shack where an urban explorer found something definitely creepy. From its contents, it looked like the place was used as a snake laboratory of some sort. Hundreds of dead snakes can be found stuffed in jars which had been collecting decades worth of dust. The place really looks like the lab of a mad scientist and is creepy enough if you visit it by day. Imagine your terror if you accidentally come by this place at night.
Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you will get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it, it really works.
Finally, the pristine mortuary. Funeral homes are unsettling places to say the least, and that's when they are in use. But what about when the mourners and the deceased are no longer there and when the embalming room is empty? The Canadian urban explorer behind the blog Freaktography visited this abandoned Victorian mansion turned funeral home in Ontario. And it turned out to be the creepiest abandoned building I have ever seen. You see, the place is in pristine condition. No dirt, no detritus, no nothing. The prim sterility leaves you wondering what must be hiding around the next turn. Which discovery freaked you out the most? Let us know down in the comments, will you? And also make sure to hit subscribe as well as the notification bell. That way you'll get notified every time we upload new and amazing content just like this. Again, thanks for watching and see you on the next video.